She wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble found her. It doesn't begin with betrayal, just tiny, innocent moments. So what leads a seemingly untouchable woman to the edge of temptation, the hidden temptation? What if the women most vulnerable to temptation aren't the ones chasing excitement, but the ones who never believed they could be tempted at all? Not because they're weak, not because they're disloyal, but because human nature craves desire, validation, and emotional connection. No woman wakes up thinking, "Today, I'll risk everything I've built." Yet, sometimes it happens. Not in a dramatic instant, but through quiet, seemingly harmless moments. A shared laugh, a lingering gaze, a message that makes her heart flutter. Suddenly, she's at the edge of a line she never imagined approaching. Why does this happen? And more importantly, how do they justify it to themselves? Before a woman crosses the line, what truly pushes a married woman toward temptation? A strong marriage isn't built by perfect people. It thrives when two imperfect souls learn to love each other's flaws. As Dave Mayer once said, when a woman enters a marriage, she brings with her pure intentions, loyalty, partnership, and long-term commitment. She dreams of building a life based on shared visions, mutual respect, and unwavering love. But somewhere along the way, even in the most stable relationships, temptation slips in, softly, subtly, and unnoticed until it's too close to stop. Emotional neglect, the silent killer of connection. Temptation is rarely about lust, it's about longing for emotional closeness. Women are emotionally wired. They crave intimacy, conversation, affection, and most of all, to be seen, heard, and valued. At the beginning of love, these needs are met effortlessly. Every glance is charged with meaning. Every word feels electric. Every touch says, "I choose you." But as time passes, real life takes over. Jobs demand attention. Kids need care. Bills pile up. Routine replaces romance. And marriage becomes a functioning unit instead of an emotional connection. And that's when cracks begin to form. But what happens when someone else starts filling those cracks? Previously, we explored how emotional gaps quietly form in a marriage, and what happens when someone unexpected begins to fill them. Now we take a closer look at what unfolds behind the quiet routines of daily life. Bit by bit, passionate conversations turn into practical checklists. What time is the doctor's appointment? Did you call the plumber? Don't forget the parent-teacher meeting. Without even noticing it, a woman begins to feel more like a roommate than a romantic partner. Not because love has disappeared, but because the feeling of being cherished begins to fade. And when a woman feels unseen, overlooked, and unheard, her heart becomes vulnerable. She begins to long for validation, not out of vanity, but from a very human need, especially for the woman who once felt adored by the same man who now barely notices her. When she starts to feel invisible in her marriage, even the smallest gesture from the outside can feel overwhelmingly meaningful. A compliment from a stranger, a co-worker who laughs at her jokes, a conversation that feels alive, makes her feel seen again. It's not the man that draws her in. It's how she feels around him. She feels beautiful again. She feels captivating again. She feels worthy again. Temptation isn't about finding someone better. It's about reconnecting with a version of herself she believed had vanished. Because we don't just fall in love with other people, we fall in love with how they make us feel about ourselves. And here's a hard truth many refuse to admit. Security without excitement can become suffocating. While stable and predictable marriages offer comfort, they can also slide into monotony. Psychologists call this the Coolidge effect, where familiarity breeds indifference And novelties spark passion, when every day follows the same worn-out script. Wake up, go to work, handle duties, repeat. Even the most loyal women can find themselves craving something unexpected, something exhilarating, something that makes the heart race, even just for a fleeting moment. It's not that she wants to replace her husband, she wants to feel alive again. And if that spark comes from a harmless exchange with a co-worker, an old friend, or even a stranger, the door to temptation nudges open, quietly, subtly. Lack of appreciation, the underrated danger. It's another silent force pulling her toward that threshold. And next we'll uncover just how powerful and overlooked this force can be. Previously, we touched on one of the most underestimated dangers in a relationship, the lack of appreciation. Now let's explore how that silent absence slowly drives a woman away from the heart of her marriage. In the early days of love, appreciation is everywhere. Compliments flow easily. You look amazing. Thank you for everything today. Small acts like making dinner or sending a sweet message feel meaningful and joyful. But as time passes and familiarity sets in, appreciation turns into expectation. What was once admired becomes routine. What was once praised becomes overlooked. And nothing stings more than feeling unappreciated by the one you give your all to every single day. Appreciation is the oxygen of a relationship. Without it, love starts to suffocate, and when someone else, even a stranger, friend, or co-worker, offers genuine recognition for the things her husband no longer sees, that emotional void inside her slowly begins to fill. Not because she's unfaithful, but because she's human. And emotional fulfillment is often even more powerful than physical pleasure. Here's what's crucial. Women cheat emotionally long before they cheat physically. While men often link infidelity to the body, for women, it begins in the heart. It starts when she shares her dreams with someone outside her marriage. When she laughs at jokes she doesn't bring home. When she opens up about her fears, frustrations, and joys to someone who isn't her partner. Emotional intimacy is the soil where physical intimacy grows. By the time something physical happens, the real betrayal has already bloomed in her heart. Emotional affairs are like small sparks, at first almost invisible, until one day they set everything on fire. And here's perhaps the deepest truth of all. It's rarely about the other man. He's not necessarily more attractive, more successful, or wealthier. He's simply there. He listens. He notices. He makes her feel something she's starving for. She isn't running toward him. She's running from loneliness, from invisibility, from emotional emptiness. In her mind, it's not cheating, it's survival, an emotional self-rescue. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because once a woman believes she's saving herself, morality becomes a blur. The real tragedy? Most marriages could survive, even thrive, if only these emotional needs were recognized and nurtured early on. But all too often, by the time anyone realizes the damage, it's already done. So how can we spot the early warning signs before it's too late? Previously, we faced a painful truth. Sometimes, by the time emotional needs are ignored for too long, the damage is already done and irreversible. As the saying goes, people don't leave the ones they love. They leave the ones who make them feel invisible. Part 2. The lies we tell ourselves. Because betrayal rarely begins with action. It begins in silence, in those quiet corners of the mind where thoughts start to twist, reshape, and slowly justify behavior once deemed unthinkable. Rationalization is the bridge between desire and betrayal. It's the subtle mental game we play to feel okay about what our hearts already want. It's not loud, it's not obvious. Sometimes it sounds like kindness, other times like logic. But in truth, it's the very thing that turns emotional emptiness into devastating decisions. The first lie, I deserve to be happy. It sounds innocent, even noble. After all, don't we all deserve happiness? But here's the truth. When happiness becomes the reason for betrayal, it's no longer self-care, it's emotional escape in disguise. When a woman starts to feel unloved, unappreciated, and emotionally alone, her inner dialogue shifts. I've sacrificed so much. No one sees how hard I try. I've done everything right, yet I still feel empty. Don't I deserve something or someone that makes me feel alive again? These thoughts aren't evil, they're human. But when left unchecked, they create a dangerous moral loophole. If happiness becomes the ultimate justification, even loyalty becomes negotiable. Suddenly stepping outside the marriage doesn't feel wrong, it feels reasonable, even necessary. And this is where betrayal truly begins. Not with the affair, but with the belief that you're entitled to break your vows in the name of fulfillment. The second lie, it's just a friendship. Affairs almost never begin with clear intentions. They begin with conversations, with shared laughter, with comfort, with understanding. And before anyone realizes, those innocent exchanges become addictive, a new emotional fuel. When a woman begins to emotionally connect with a man outside her marriage, her first instinct is almost always denial. We're just talking. He gets me, that's all. He's like a brother to me, but is it really just that? Let's pull back the curtain a little more in the next part. Previously, we discussed how calling an emotional connection just friendship is like playing with fire, pretending it's harmless until it consumes everything. Now comes the question many ask: if nothing physical happened, is it still cheating? Some tell themselves there's nothing physical, so it's not cheating. But here's the hard truth. Emotional infidelity often cuts deeper than physical betrayal, because physical betrayal is just an act. But emotional betrayal, it's a bond. It means she's chosen to confide in someone else, laugh with someone else, feel alive, but not with her husband. Rationalizing an emotional affair as just a friendship is like saying a fire is just warm light until it burns everything down. The third lie: if my partner were meeting my needs, I wouldn't be doing this. This is blame shifting, the tactic of dodging personal accountability. And yes, it may contain a seed of truth. Unmet needs, emotional disconnect, they matter. But betrayal is still a choice. There's always a crossroads: communicate or conceal, repair or replace, fight for the relationship or run from discomfort. Blaming your partner for your infidelity turns a decision into a reaction. If only he had been more affectionate. If only he appreciated me more. He changed after marriage. But that's not the full story. There are always other options besides cheating, talking, therapy, effort, honesty, even separation before betrayal. To betray someone, then use their flaws to excuse your disloyalty, is not only dishonest, it's cowardly. The fourth lie: no one will find out. This is the illusion of control, the belief that you can play with fire and walk away untouched. At first, secrecy feels like security. Burner phones, deleted texts, discreet meetings. And for a while, it might work. But here's what people forget. Even if no one else finds out, you carry it. It weighs on your thoughts. It seeps into your voice, your energy, your patience, your presence. The energy of guilt is heavy, and sooner or later it poisons everything. Your relationship, your self-worth, your peace of mind. The truth always leaves fingerprints, even if no one else sees them. And when betrayal is forced to live in shadows, it slowly kills the light of authentic connection. The fifth lie: this isn't who I really am. Ironically, this is the line often whispered once the damage is already done. It's the mind's way of protecting the ego. I made a mistake, but I'm not a cheater. That wasn't really me. I wasn't myself during that time. But if it wasn't you, then who was it? We just heard a familiar excuse. That wasn't really me. But if it wasn't you, then who was it? Here's the truth many people refuse to accept. You are what you consistently choose. We're not just defined by our values when life is easy, but by the decisions we make when those values are tested. One mistake doesn't make you irredeemable, but pretending the betrayal came from someone outside your character, that's just another way to avoid responsibility. The road to redemption starts with ownership, not denial. Admitting you crossed a line doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you honest. And honesty, no matter how painful, is the only path toward healing, whether with your partner or within yourself. Let's be clear again. Betrayal begins in the mind. Before a woman ever cheats physically, she leaves the relationship mentally. The lies she tells herself, even the smallest ones, become stepping stones toward betrayal. First, she feels emotionally starved. Then she finds comfort somewhere else. Then she rationalizes it. Then she hides it. And eventually she convinces herself, I had no other choice. But there's always a choice. And the most dangerous betrayals, they don't start in bed, they start in thought, in justifications. In that quiet voice that whispers, it's not so bad. Just this once. This isn't really cheating. I deserve this. If that voice isn't questioned, it grows louder, and soon it drowns out reason, loyalty, and love. We don't destroy relationships by accident. We destroy them one lie at a time. And the first lie is always the one we tell ourselves. Number 3, the point of no return. When it's too late to undo the damage. You never know the last time you'll see someone as they were, until one day they're someone else to you. That moment isn't always when the betrayal is discovered, or even when the act is committed. It's when the emotional thread finally snaps, the trust, the safety, the belief that we can survive anything, gone. And once that point is crossed, no apology, no tear, no promise can bring it back. Emotional erosion always comes before collapse. Contrary to what many believe, relationships don't fall apart overnight. They corrode quietly, slowly, day by day. So how do we stop the erosion before it becomes a collapse? Previously, we talked about the point of no return, that moment when emotional damage becomes irreversible. But the collapse doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly, quietly, thought by thought, choice by choice. And by the time the truth comes out, or your partner chooses to walk away, the real damage has already been done, not just to the relationship, but to how they see you. They no longer see the person they once trusted. They no longer feel safe around you. They may still look at you, but they don't recognize what they used to love. That shift in perception is permanent, and it doesn't arrive dramatically. It comes quietly, chillingly so, like watching something die while it still breathes. Apologies can't rebuild what lies destroyed. There's a painful misconception. If I show enough remorse, things will go back to how they were. But betrayal doesn't just break trust, it changes reality. A heartfelt apology can't make them unsee what they've seen. It can't make them unhear the lies. It can't undo months or even years of secrecy and deception, because an apology addresses the act. But betrayal shatters the foundation. A broken mirror may be glued back together, but every reflection will always show the cracks. Every glance becomes a reminder of what once wasn't there. When someone reaches their emotional threshold, they might forgive, but they will never forget, and some wounds, even after forgiveness, still bleed. When respect is lost, love follows. You can't truly love someone you no longer respect. Once betrayal happens, especially when minimized, rationalized, or hidden, respect is the first casualty. The betrayed partner often experiences a psychological shift. You knew this would hurt me, and you did it anyway. You didn't protect us, you protected your own desire. I gave you loyalty. You gave me deception. That's the moment the soul exits the relationship. The heart may linger a little longer, out of hope or habit. But once respect is gone, love has no air left to breathe. You can try to prove your remorse. You can over-explain. You can beg. But once someone no longer respects who you are, they stop wanting to love you. The fallout. When silence replaces connection. After the point of no return, the way you communicate changes, not into shouting matches, but into emptiness. The partner doesn't argue anymore. They simply disengage. You can feel the coldness in their voice, the distance in their eyes, the way they no longer try. They stop asking questions, stop caring, and in that silence is the loudest kind of heartbreak. But what happens after that silence fully settles in? We saw that love doesn't always die in screaming matches. Sometimes it disappears in silence. And when silence replaces connection, that's when you know something precious has been lost. They stop checking in. They stop fighting. Not because things are okay, but because they've already given up. That's the real signal, not when they scream, but when they go quiet. Because silence is what love becomes after being betrayed too many times. At that point, attempts to repair the relationship come too late. The tragedy of betrayal is this: the person who caused the pain often wakes up only when it's already too late. When they finally see the depth of the damage, when they realize the person they hurt is now numb, detached, finished, they try harder, they change, they become the partner they should have been all along. They say the right things, finally. But here's what they don't understand. You can't fix a dead relationship by becoming who you were supposed to be, only after you broke it. By the time some people are ready to love properly, the other person has already buried that love. The cold truth: not all wounds heal. Some betrayals cut so deep that even if the relationship continues, it's never whole again. The betrayed might stay, but their eyes are colder, their tone more distant, their heart more guarded, every single day. Sometimes they don't even know why they stayed, just that they're no longer the version of themselves that once loved freely. Other times they walk away and never look back, not out of hatred, but out of self-preservation, because staying would mean slowly bleeding for someone who already cut them once. Final thoughts for this section. The moment that changes everything is rarely one big event. It's a series of ignored red flags, of silent wounds, of emotional withdrawal, of crossed lines. And when that moment finally
arrives, it changes everything. Not because love wasn't strong,
but because trust was broken too many times. If you've ever been there, you can feel it in your bones. If you haven't, let this be your warning. Every action, every lie, every excuse has a price. And when that bill finally comes due, it's paid with the loss of someone who once would have given you everything. We don't lose people all at once. We lose them piece by piece, lie by lie, until there's nothing left but a version of them who no longer cares. Next up, reason number 4, emotional starvation. Why do women seek connection outside their marriage? It's rarely a decision made overnight. It's a slow starvation until connection elsewhere feels like survival. Previously, we explored reason number 4, emotional starvation. And here's the painful truth. This kind of starvation doesn't explode like a fight. It's quiet, it's gradual, it's the slow erosion of something once vibrant and alive. In many relationships, emotional neglect doesn't scream, it whispers. It's not loud, it's not violent, it's not obvious. It's a touch that stops happening, a look that no longer lingers, a partner who's physically there, but emotionally gone. This is emotional starvation, a quiet drought that leaves a woman feeling invisible, unworthy, and alone, even when she sleeps beside someone every night. And when a woman reaches this level of depletion, she doesn't go searching for passion. She seeks validation. She needs to feel seen again. Emotional starvation isn't chaos, it's drought. People often misunderstand what's happening when a woman starts to become distant or dissatisfied in a relationship. They call it needy. They say she's being ungrateful. But what's actually happening is this. Her emotional needs are going unmet, and she's been silent about it for a long time. She no longer feels heard. She no longer feels chosen. She no longer feels like she matters. Women are naturally wired for connection, not just romantic, but deeply emotional. They crave presence, attention, and understanding. They want to feel felt, but when their partner becomes distracted, dismissive, emotionally unavailable, just absent, they begin to emotionally wilt, not all at once, but day by day, something inside begins to die. I'm fine often means, I'm numb now. Before a woman seeks connection elsewhere, there's almost always a period of effort, of gentle requests, more time, more attention, more warmth. But when those requests are ignored or dismissed, she stops asking. Not because it no longer matters, but because she's exhausted. This is when you'll hear, I'm fine, and you'll believe it. But I'm fine is often the mask women wear when they've already checked out emotionally. It's not peace. It's resignation. They're no longer fighting for the relationship. They're mourning it, quietly. And this is the danger zone, because while her body remains, her heart has already started searching for shelter elsewhere. And when someone else finally starts listening, a woman rarely seeks out someone new because she craves excitement. She seeks it because someone finally sees her. Can that moment still be saved or before it's too late? We saw that when emotional starvation takes hold, the smallest gestures from others can feel enormous, and that's where danger begins. In the quiet spaces where emotional hunger meets accidental attention. Sometimes it's that coworker who remembers her birthday, that online stranger who compliments her intellect, not just her looks. that friend who listens without interrupting, fixing, or judging. These moments may seem insignificant, but when a woman is emotionally starving, a single sip of attention feels like a feast, and soon she finds herself sharing more with them than she does with her own partner. Not just fact, but feelings. Not just updates, but dreams. This is emotional infidelity, and it often starts long before any physical boundary is ever crossed. It's a dangerous space because it forces her to ask, why do I feel more like myself with them than with the person I once vowed forever to? Connection is the currency of female desire. Yes, physical attraction matters, but for most women, true desire is rooted in connection, emotional safety, mutual respect, being seen without judgment. When those things disappear from her primary relationship, so does her affection, so does her loyalty, so does her willingness to keep trying. And when another man offers those things, not aggressively, but genuinely, it awakens something in her she thought had long died. Not because she's immoral, not because she's broken, but because she's human. Starve anything long enough, and it will go searching for nourishment elsewhere. Here's the cruel irony. Most men realize what they're losing only when it's already gone. Wendy starts dressing differently, laughing more with someone else, or worse, when she's emotionally absent even while physically present. Suddenly he wants to show her affection. He wants to be attentive, to be present, but what he doesn't understand is this. You can't water a dead flower and expect it to bloom again. Love doesn't respond to delayed effort. Not after it's been neglected for so long. By the time many women look for connection elsewhere, they've already grieved the man they once loved. Emotionally, they've already moved on. Final thoughts for this chapter. Love must be fed. Most marriages don't collapse with a bang. They die quietly, from emotional starvation. Woman doesn't cheat because she stopped loving you. She cheats, emotionally or physically, because she stopped loving how she felt around you. If you make her feel like a burden, if you dismiss her emotions, if you take her presence for granted, someone else will eventually come along. Will make her feel like a gift, and once she feels that difference, she'll never forget it. So don't just say I love you, make her feel it, daily, intentionally, before someone else does. But what if you're only hearing this now? And it's already too late. If you're hearing this while there's still time, act right now. Love doesn't feed itself. It needs presence. It needs effort. It needs attention. Not just during the storm, but in the still, quiet moments. Don't wait until she has nothing left to say. Don't wait until her eyes go distant. Don't wait until silence is the only thing left between you. Learn to see her while she's still there. Listen, even when she speaks softly. Touch, not just with your hands, but with care. And most importantly, make her feel chosen every single day. Because betrayal doesn't always begin with action. It begins in what's neglected. In the hug that stopped happening, in the conversation that was interrupted, in the emotion left untouched. And by the time you notice she's changed, maybe she hasn't. Maybe she's just surviving, because you let her wither away, piece by piece. In the end, the only thing that keeps a woman is not a promise, not a memory, but the feeling of being loved and valued. Because once her heart pulls away, even if her body is still there, it's already over. Don't wait for someone else to do what was always meant to be yours.